Hello guys, my name is Giancarlo Mora and this is a training series for MapleStudios.net. In the website you will find our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and there you will find everything you need. And now I have to tell you that we're going to be modeling every single object here. This first video we're going to be talking about how we can model everything here. So like some modifiers and tools. Before that, I just will show you very quickly what we're going to be doing by layers. This is separated by layers. Every group of objects have a controller. And yeah, just before start explaining the modifiers and the tools, sometimes if you are a mid user or really new with Blender, we don't get the result we want. I did this scene from a reference I took from the internet, and I have to tell you that the first time I tried to create this, I had few troubles. I will show you. I didn't get a really nice result. That was really bad indeed. I will show you what I did the first time, the first try I get, and this is just something inspirational for you if you are not the kind of artist you wanna be. Okay, when you see this, you will notice that everything here is really bad done, with really bad shape and completely not proportional. Sometimes we get the result when we haven't practiced enough. So if you are in this point, I really hope you keep up, because I started creating this like, I don't know, long time ago, and when I get this result I really get disappointed. I'm even going to render this, and there it is. It's looking really bad. So I have to tell you guys that if you keep trying and studying, you will get a really nice result. Okay, let's start. You will notice that my user interface is a little different than the default you will have when you download Blender. By default, you will get a Blender that is looking like this, but with a sun or a lamp and with a camera. But yeah, I just modify a few things here, and it's not a big deal. Okay, I will add a cube, and the first thing I have to explain you is the pivot point. The pivot point is something I will modifying a lot during all these videos, and it's very important that you understand what it is. I will be using shortcuts, and it's important that you know what am I doing. Okay, I will select the top face in this cube and I will rotate it. Okay, and you will notice the way it is rotating. It is rotating from this controller, the three arrows, a manipulator. Okay, and that's the pivot point of this face. Okay, but you can modify that, for example, with your 3D cursor, which is this, that each time you click it appears. For example, if you select this vertex and you activate the snaps, or you use the snap with Shift S, and you can use cursor to select it. Okay, and then you have the cursor just over that vertex. You could change the pivot point of this face by, okay, right here in the pivot point options. By default, this comes as median point, and I will show you that this is the midpoint that is usually changing if you, well, depending on your selection of things. For example, if I select the entire object, this will be calculating which is the center of the vertex of faces I'm selecting. Okay, so that's the default with Blender, but you can modify that. I will show you the 3 cursor, and you will notice that the manipulator is now just over the cursor, and doesn't matter, well, the object now, if I change the cursor, the pivot point will change. So I will use the cursor again in this vertex, and if I select the face this time and I rotate this, you will notice the difference, because the face is now rotating with this pivot point, which is the cursor. So, for example, I will be using shortcuts to change between pivot points. The median point shortcut is Control comma, and to change the pivot point to the 3 cursor is period. Okay, I think that that's all we are going to be using during these videos. If you want to try all the other options, you could do it. It's really easy, but I'm not going to cover that in this tutorial because it's not necessary. Now I will show you a modifier that I will be using a lot, which is edge split. I will subdivide this object a few times. This is not important. Important is the modifier I will apply just in a second. Okay, now I have this cube and I just add a shape key, which is going to change the shape of this object from a cube to a sphere. Okay, so you will notice that a sphere with this shading, which is flat, is not looking really good. For a sphere, what you want is a smooth shading. Now if we have a cube, you don't want the cube to be looking with this shading, which is smooth. You will want it in flat. So for example, I will add the edge split modifier, and this is the angle. This is the angle of the edge split. Let me show you what is this about just in a second. For example, if I move this to 0, okay, let me just check something. Okay, I will move this to smooth. Usually when I use edge split, I will be using the shading for the entire object with smooth. Okay, so now if I move this to 0 degrees, this is going to be flat. with any degree above 0. Okay, that's how this works. For example, if I change this to a sphere, all the degrees are over 0, so 0 is not useful really. But if we change this to 90, well, just a little less than 90, okay, 89, this will be useful now because we have this cube with a flat shading, but if we want to change this object to a sphere, this sphere will be in smooth. So this is really useful. This is something I really like to be using, and I will show you another example. Okay. For example, with this object, you will probably want this part of the object with a smooth shading, but this part you will want it with a flat shading. So I will become this object to smooth shading, and I will add an edge split, and yeah, you will notice that this is looking the way we want now. So yeah, this is edge split, and we're going to be using this modifier a lot with these tutorials. So now I will explain you what I just did with those vertices. I will be using this tool during all these videos, and this is called spin. Okay, so how this works: spin will be affected by two things: the cursor and the view. It's not the same that I use spin from the side that if I do it from top. Okay, you will get a different result, and it's really important that you understand that, because I will show you in a second, it's not the same. The cursor is really important, because I will create spin with the cursor here, and you can see the result. Okay, but if I move the cursor right here and I use a spin, you will notice that you have a really big change. Is because spin have, as I told you, two references: the cursor and the view. Okay, so it's really important. Now with F6 you can change a few things about spin. If you check this duplicate, which by the way I won't be using it during all these videos, but yeah, anyway I will show you. You will get this, but without the fill, just duplication of what you have selected. And by the way, spin just works with, for example, I select the entire edge, but if I do it just with one vertex, it will work with one vertex. Okay, and if you do it with a face, it will do it with the whole face. Okay, so now you have another things here that you could change. For example, the degree, and this is really useful. because you can change this as much as you want or as much as you need. This is not complex. Okay. By the way, you can use mathing here. You could use 19 plus 10, and yeah, you will get the result. You are able to do that with Blender. And yeah, the center and the axis is, well, you will change the way that this will be behaving like, but I usually want to do this with the cursor and with the view, so that's not useful and I won't be using it during all these videos. Something I have to tell you guys, I will add a circle, okay, and I will duplicate this Z-axis, okay. With W you have these specials options, and you will notice that I have these loop tools here, and loop tools is an add-on. This is just the user preferences, and you can see right here the shortcut to get the user preferences. I will be typing here loop tools, and you will notice that I have this enabled. I will be using this during all these videos, guys. Is a really useful and important thing you have to know. But if you have vMesh, a vMesh version of Blender, you will maybe find that they are with problems, or they are not working, or something like that. And I have to tell you guys that I won't be using a vMesh version of Blender during all these videos. There are not too much difference, but the difference is that with vMesh I just have no access to these tools, so that's basically why I will be using a non-vMesh version. Okay, it's really important. Now about these loop tools, I have two which we will be using. First is bridge, okay, and you can see how this works. I just select this vertex here and the others with bridge. This is going to calculate how to fill it. In the past you have to do this by hand and fill. Now this is saving a lot of time, and we're going to be using this. Is a really important thing. But I will show you something really quickly. Okay, for example, I will be using bridge, and you will notice that when I go to loop tools I have this, and this is the shortcut. I am using a shortcut for bridge and another for circle. Why? Well, that's because I use bridge and circle a lot. They are really good loop tools, so you can change this with right click and change shortcut or remove shortcut and view docs, and you have other things here. All you have to do is change shortcut and choose one. Okay, and then you have to go to user preferences and save as default. That's another thing. Okay, now I will show you that if I select all these vertices and I press Ctrl Alt B, I will get this bridge. Okay, sometimes when we use bridge, you will get things like this, which are looking really weird. And the thing here is that every face have a direction, and you will notice that you can flip or change the direction of the face. And if you don't do that with, at least with smooth shading, you will get these weird mistakes or behavior. For example, with some objects I will get this with a lot of faces, and I'm not going to do it this by hand because it's too slow. So there is a shortcut to calculate the direction of the normal of the faces. I mean, you have to select the faces you want to calculate, and with Ctrl N you will get the right direction. Sometimes this could not be work 100%, but yeah, it's really useful. Now I will show you the next one, the next lab tool I will be using, and that's circle. Okay, I have these 4 vertices, and I will subdivide this. Okay, now I have 8. And what I'm gonna do, for example, if I want this to be a circle, I could scale this just in one axis or this and try to get a circle. But if you have, I don't know, 16 or more, this will be harder to get. You don't want to move all these vertices by hand. So that's where circle comes and help us. If I select all these vertices and with lab tools I use circle, I will get a really nice circle. So yeah, there is nothing else I guess about this option. I have a shortcut. If you want to do it, you want to add a shortcut to these lab tools, you can do it. That's your choice. During these videos, guys, we will be using lab cuts, and this is okay. These videos are not for a completely newbie with Blender, so I'm not going to explain what is a lab cut. But for example, when I add a lab cut, you could use the numpad to change the number. You can change the number of lab cuts with your scroll, and I will be using that a lot. But if you could do it with your numpad, and for example, if you want to add 8, all you have to do is 8 with your numpad, click, and there it is. So if you didn't realize that this option is available, it's important that you know it for this tutorial. So I really need to explain that. Okay, for example, I will give you a really quick example of what we have done here. I will change the pivot point of this cube to this cursor with period. I will add 2 lab cuts, and from cursor I will scale this. But something I'm gonna do, I will scale this just in 2 axes. And how you do that? Okay, to scale or rotate or something like that just in 2 axes, all you have to do For example, you could scale this just in Z-axis from cursor and you will see the behavior of this. But if you want to use Y and X-axis, for example, you have to use S to scale and Shift Z-axis, and you will note how we're scaling this phase, but Z-axis is just not taking account for this. So we are going to be doing that a lot of times during these videos, scaling using one axis like X-axis, and I will scale it 4 times, or from pivot point scaling just in Z-axis, for example. And about selection, there are something I have to show you right now. For example, I have this face selected, and let's say that I want to select, for example, all the faces that are touching this face. Okay, so there is a way to do that, and I will show you that with Control, and in your numpad you will have the minus and the plus. So if you use Control plus or minus, I will show you, you will get a bigger selection, or you will quit the selection with the faces that are touching that. So I will give you a bigger example of this. For example, I will add a UV sphere, okay, and let's say that I just want to get half of this object, so I select just the top faces, and with Control plus, now I just have the faces I want, or with Control minus you could change this. I will be using this few times during these videos, and I will separate this just for a moment. Something I will be using here to change selections. For example, if I want to select the entire object here, I will be using the L shortcut to select a whole object. All you have to do is have your cursor or your mouse just touching that object, and Blender is going to select the entire object. Now let's say that we have 4 of this, or 6. And I just want to select these objects, okay, and you could be using L to select all of this, but if you use Shift L, Control L I mean, the face, for example, you have a face selected here, and with Control L you will select the entire object of all the faces you have selected, okay? So that's something that you should know. And I will add a cube or a UV sphere, okay. We're going to be using one modifier that you will find, I think that is in generate. Okay, here it is, Solidify. This modifier is really easy to use. For example, I told you that the faces have a direction, and with in special options with flip normals, you can change the direction of these faces. So Solidify take the direction of the faces and just make thickness from that. I will show you. For example, you will see that we're getting a really nice thickness here, and you can increase or decrease that number as much as you need it. You can even have a negative value if that's what you need. For example, let's say that you want to create the earth, you have to show the layers of the earth, and yeah, I don't know, you can use it as you want. Okay, this is not a big deal, but there's something that could modify the behavior of Solidify. For example, if you scale objects out of edit mode, you will see that the behavior of the thickness is changing a lot, but it's not the same that you do it out of edit mode. If you do it in edit mode, you will get differences. I hope you can see the difference. For example, let's say I will scale this out of edit mode, okay? And you will see here that we have a different scale now. So this is not 111 as default. If I apply rotation scale, you will see how Solidify is changing. So you will have to be careful with that, just in case something is looking not the way you want. Okay, one more modifier. Now let's say that we have this cube, and there is a modifier called mirror, and it does what it says. It mirrors an object, but it will use it always. It will be working always from the origin of the object. And I will add mirror to this half cube, and I will show you. Okay, so this is looking just at the beginning when we have the entire cube. But let's see what happens if I change the origin of this object to, let's say, to the cursor. Okay, we are getting this result, and by the way, it's looking weird. You can have the mirror with different axes, but yeah. So usually what we're going to be doing with this tutorial, we will tell to Blender where is the where is the half of this object, where is the middle point, and we will we will move the cursor to that place with the snap options, and we will set the origin of the geometry of or the object to the cursor 3D, and that's how we will tell Blender where to use mirror. For example, if you rotate this in edit mode, you will get this this behavior, and you don't want to do that in edit mode with mirror, because you will get that with behavior. So be careful with that. And really quickly, I will explain you what clipping is. For example, if I want to move this this vertex in x-axis, Blender allowed me to do it, and we will get, well, this hole here. But if I enable clipping, Blender will tell me that, well, this is the middle point, and you are just not allowed to move that, because you will do a hole with this object. So that's how clipping works. If you disable the clipping, you can move it again. But if you enable clipping and you touch that this blue line, in this case, which is the middle of the object, you touch it, you won't be able to move the vertex again, at least in x-axis with this case. Okay, there are just one more thing that I want to explain you, and it's the snap. I will show you really quick. Let's say that I have this ball here, and I have a cube right here. Okay, and let's say that we need this ball to be touching this vertex of the cube. So if you do it by hand, you could do it by hand, but if you want to, you know what, let's change this with a plane. Okay, and I will scale this plane 8 times. Let's say that we have to move this sphere to this corner, and we want this to be really exact with this vertex. Okay, so one thing you could do, you could use cursor to select it, and then selection to cursor. Okay, and maybe that's not a bad idea, but there is an easier way to do it, and sometimes you will need to use it, which is this magnet you can see here. This is snap. Okay, and by default this is turned off with Blender, but if you enable this, you will get these options here. You have increment, vertex, edge, face, and volume. Okay, and I will show you how to do this really quickly. Okay, for example, we have this grid behind, and we have increment. Increment will do a snap with the grid of Blender. So for example, let's say that we move this to here, and it is like jumping, you will see. Okay, and if you move, if you move your view closer or okay, for example, I will do it closer. I will move this in x-axis here, and you will see that big jump. Okay, but if I get closer, I will get I won't get those big jumps, and it's because you can see that if you are from, let's say, from top view, you have these grids, these cubes here, and if you get closer, you will find that there are a lot of cubes inside those cubes, or inside the squares, because there are no cubes. So that's how Blender use the increment snap to to move. We're going to be using a lot of times the vertex, and if you use the G shortcut to grab the object and you touch a vertex with the mouse, you will see what happened. The object is going to jump directly to the vertex, and yeah, that's pretty much the same with this. Balloon is one that we won't be using. But now I want to tell you a few things. For example, I have activated the snap, and I will grab it to this corner, okay? But let's say that I don't want this sphere to be right here, I want it to be here, and for that you could be using the edge. So grab, and there it is, always touching this edge, really useful. But if I want this just in the middle, we're having this behavior that we don't want to get. So for example, let's say that with vertex you will grab this and you will do it just along x-axis. So now you touch the vertex and you can tell to the object if it's going to be moving just in one axis, but always with snap. So that's really useful. And there is one more thing that I have to tell you. Let's say that I don't want to be using always the snap, but if I'm moving this and I realize that I want a snap and it's not enabled, you could go out, cancel the movement and check this, and then again do the movement. Or let's say that this is disabled and you are going to move this object and you want to use a snap. All you have to do with that is press Ctrl during the movement and snap will be working. So for example, you will see that you got this circle when snap is activated. So if you see that my object or my faces or my vertex are jumping and this circle is in the tree view, so that means that I'm using the snap. So that way you won't get lost if I use it or whatever. Okay. Yeah, guys, that's what I want to tell you. There is just one last thing that I will show you, and I will subdivide a cube to show you how to do this. There is something called Inset, and honestly I won't be using this too much in the video, maybe just one or two times, but I have to show you how to do it, how to use it. Again, with the user preferences, which you can bring the user preferences from here, from File, Ctrl-Alt-U, and if I use Inset here, I will get two Inset Extrude and Inset Polygon. I really like both of these insets, and I have both enabled. But the one that we will be using now is this one, Inset Extrude. So you will see that if you enable this, and if you are reading here, John Armstrong, or I don't know who, say that with the I key you can do the Inset Extrude, and this is in edit mode. So Inset, I will show you how to use it. Let's say that I want to do an extrusion of this, and to have always the same difference from this edge than from this edge. I will show you just in a second. I have no idea how to explain it. With the eye, you will get this result. And this is really, really useful, because if you try to do this by hand, will be, you know, something really hard to achieve. So you can see that I have a number here, positive or negative, and let's say that this is how much I want. And if you press left click, you will get this movement with the faces that you had extruded. So, well, Inset is something that I really like to use. I really like to be using this because it's so useful. So, well guys, if you want to add now the LUT tools and the Inset and those tools, it's a really good time to do it. I will see you in the next video, guys, where we're going to start with the modeling.